Are you a people pleaser? Are you one who feels pressure to try to make everyone happy, or at least to make someone happy by your job performance, or by the way you treat them, or what you say to them? Those are all natural and good desires to have, but reality tells us that it's very difficult to please people. Especially it's difficult to please people if you're telling them something they don't want to hear in the first place, if you're telling them the truth. Jesus knew what it was like to have pressure of trying to have a message that people would accept and hear, and yet at the same time to be true to himself. Matthew chapter 11 records some of the events in the life of Jesus, the people he worked with, the people who came to him. Matthew 11 tells us about Jesus giving instructions to his 12 disciples and sending them out. And almost at the same time it seems, and then there's another group of disciples, the disciples of John, who come to Jesus and want his time and want his response to some questions. Then Matthew continues about Jesus going out and traveling to different cities, speaking to crowds, and having all kinds of responses that we'll look at in a moment. So Jesus was dealing with individuals, persons, small groups, large groups, crowds, cities, and trying to balance all of that with being true to who he was and what he was called to be and to do. Let's look at Jesus, how he handled the pressure of people questioning him and the challenge to try to be pleasing to them. Verse 2 tells us, now when John was in prison, he heard the words of Christ, and the works of Christ rather. He sent word by his disciples and said to him, are you the expected one, or should we look for someone else? In other words, are you the one, the Messiah that we've been looking for, prophesying about, waiting for hundreds of years? Or are you really the one? Here's Jesus' response. Go and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. This report that Jesus was offering of his own life and ministry was the same as what he had told his disciples to go out and do. Jesus had a clear sense of mission and purpose, and he was going to follow it. He adds then words to the disciples of John in response when he says, blessed is he who does not take offense at me. In other words, here I am, this is what I came to be, this is what I came to do, and blessed are you if you don't take offense at what I'm trying to tell you. Jesus realized, though, that people, being people, were going to respond and not be pleased really no matter what he did. Because in the life of John and the life of Jesus, you had two different styles, almost two different extremes, and people criticized both times. Jesus said it like this, verse 16, still in Matthew 11. But to what shall I compare this generation? It's like children sitting in the marketplaces who call out to the other children, we played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. In other words, either way I go, it's just like children playing. You can't make them happy. Jesus explains, for John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man, speaking of himself, came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a gluttonous man and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. In other words, Jesus is saying, "You calling me a drunk, a glutton?" But just as he had words to the disciples of John about he who has ears to hear, let him hear. And blessed is he who does not take offense at me. Jesus also says again, wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. Stay true to who you are and what you are doing. In your life, your deeds will bear out the purity of your motives and the veracity of your message. Jesus said in the closing words of this chapter, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." If you're feeling pressured, pressed in from every direction, Jesus has relief for your body and rest for your soul. If you'll come to him and let him give you rest, if you'll wear his yoke that is easy and his burden is light. I'm reminded of the Carole King song, also made famous by her friend James Taylor. You've got a friend. When you're down and troubled and you need some love and care, and nothing is going right, close your eyes. Think of me. Soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. The sky above you grows dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow. Keep your head together. Call my name out loud. Soon you hear me knocking at your door. Ain't it good to know you've got a friend? When people can be so cold, they'll hurt you and desert you and take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. You just call out my name. You know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there. You got a friend.